Scotland's First Folios. When will we three meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? These familiar words are from Macbeth, one of Shakespeare's best-known plays. The play only survives because it was printed 400 years ago in the first edition of his complete works, the volume we call today the First Folio. This film tells the story of 3 copies of that First Folio, all here in Scotland, held in publicly accessible collections. They're safe from thunder, lightning, rain, and anything else that might damage them. They will all be on display in 2023, and all with stories to tell. At the heart of the University of Glasgow's copy are comments by someone who saw Shakespeare's own company perform some of his plays. They wrote their reviews in the book. The Merry Wives of Windsor, very good. The Two Gentlemen of Verona, stark naught. In Edinburgh is a copy which has been carefully preserved in Scotland for at least half of its life. First, by a Miss Clark of Dunbar, described by Robert Burns as a clever woman with tolerable pretensions to remark and wit. Then, by the Society of Antiquaries, and finally, by the National Library of Scotland, where it now lives. You might not think a Scottish island a likely home for a First Folio, but one has travelled from early editors to a family of collectors on the Isle of Bute, where at Mount Stuart it gives local school pupils a taste of Shakespeare's plays as first printed. Truly a local treasure. This film tells why this one book matters so much, and shows the different lives these copies have led. It tells of the work that has been done to keep them readable today, so that Shakespeare's words, stories, and characters can inspire and endure for current and future generations to enjoy.
Our First Folio, it's a relatively recent arrival in the National Library, but it's been in Scotland for more than half of its existence. When you do a job like mine, you see a lot of very rare books and you see a lot of older books, and I'm not going to say you get blasé about it, but you certainly get used to them. But there are some books that you will never not get a thrill out of seeing, and that is definitely one of them. We think it was rebound by the Society of Antiquaries, and it's a really lovely 18th century binding, but it means a lot of the earlier information about that book has been lost. Ours doesn't have a lot of writing on it or annotations, but it does show a lot of evidence. You can tell just by, you can see the thumb marks on the pages, you can see where people have held a candle over maybe some wax has dripped, or a spark has landed on the page, so you can see that it's been a very well-read book. The portrait page was damaged, and as part of the repairs, Shakespeare's eye was damaged, and as part of the repairs, someone has coloured it in. So it's not a really beautiful engraving to start with, I think. And I think the way they fixed it makes him look like he's looking at you with a very sinister expression. You have these plays which only exist in the First Folio. It's like, well, this is the first time those words ever appeared. This is the first time All the World's a Stage ever appeared in print. This is the first time If 'Twere Done Well, When 'Tis Done, Then 'Twere Done Quickly, and When Will We Three Meet Again appear on the page. These famous lines and these famous characters, these famous stories. And in fact, without the First Folio, they may not have survived because they weren't printed separately. They're exciting texts to read, and they're exciting texts to see performed. And I wouldn't say that there is something, you can only appreciate Shakespeare if you see the First Folio. You can appreciate Shakespeare if you see your local school putting on a production of Shakespeare. You'll see something in that you like. But it all comes back to this one volume. That's what makes it special.